This week we begin reading the book of Proverbs. These are collections of wisdom gathered from the experiences of many people far and wide, people who made their mistakes, who paid attention to what happened, and have now something to pass on to generations to come. This book is written as by a father to his son, collecting them as a gift. If you learn the Proverbs, you don't have to learn things the hard way. We look at the readings this week also from the Exodus, and we see that Pharaoh did learn things the hard way, and he became an example that was never forgotten of what happens when you don't follow that central theme of the Proverbs, that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Pharaoh does not fear the Lord, and he will not obey his voice. And as the plagues go on and intensify, Pharaoh's irrational disobedience just heightens. First we hear that he is hardening his heart and won't let Israel go. But then we hear the Lord hardens his heart, as if God says, okay, fine. You want to do this the hard way. We're going to play this out to the final round. I'm going to show my power through you, and people will never forget it. But God's power is not always demonstrated in acts of judgment. And in the Gospels, we see it demonstrated in mercy. Jesus, first we see him feeding 5,000 people of his own nation, the nation of Israel, in the wilderness with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And then 12 baskets are gathered together, remembering the 12 tribes that once ate bread given from God in the wilderness. But then he goes over to Gentile territory. And there's a Gentile woman who comes and asks for mercy and for a healing. And it calls her a Canaanite, not a term normally used in those days, but Matthew uses it to remind us that she's descended from those 7 nations that God drove out before the Israelites. And then many others come and they're healed. And then Christ actually feeds them, thousands of them, with bread also. And 7 baskets full are left over. 7 baskets for the 7 Canaanite nations. Christ is not just the Savior of the 12 tribes of Israel, but even of the Canaanites. And that's the theme that comes out in the end of Romans as well. Paul says that the reason Christ became a servant to Israel was so that the Gentiles would see his works and glorify God. And so therefore it is the priestly work of the people of God to share the word of Christ with all the nations of the world.